What happens when a perfectly normal daytime interview suddenly turns into a moment so tense that the entire studio stops breathing? The lights were bright. The music was cheerful. The audience clapped as the cameras slowly swept across the studio. From the outside, everything looked exactly like it always did. Another popular talk show. Another celebrity interview. Another relaxed conversation meant to entertain millions of viewers at home. But nobody in that room knew that within minutes, the atmosphere would completely change. And the moment it did, it would become one of the most uncomfortable live television exchanges anyone had seen in years. Before we dive into what really happened, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel The Truth Narrator, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because on this channel, we uncover the most dramatic, shocking, and unforgettable celebrity moments ever captured on camera. Now back to the story. The host walked confidently onto the stage as the audience applauded. They were known for their calm personality, quick humor, and ability to make guests feel comfortable. For years, they had interviewed actors, musicians, politicians, and public figures without a single moment getting out of control. Today's guest was a huge celebrity. Someone constantly in the headlines. Someone loved by millions, but also surrounded by controversy. When their name was announced, the audience erupted into applause. The celebrity walked onto the stage smiling, waving to the crowd as if everything was perfectly normal. They hugged the host, shook hands, and sat down in the chair across from them. At first, the conversation felt light and easy. The host asked about the celebrity's newest movie, which had been dominating social media for weeks. The guest laughed while sharing a funny story from the movie set. The audience laughed along. For a few minutes, it felt like every other interview viewers had seen before. But then something happened. The host glanced down at their notes. Just for a second. When they looked back up, their tone changed slightly. So, the host began carefully, "Your new project has been getting a lot of attention, but so has something else." The audience immediately reacted with quiet murmurs. The celebrity smiled politely. "What do you mean?" they asked. The host leaned forward slightly. "Well, over the past few weeks there have been a lot of headlines about a situation that happened during one of your previous interviews." The celebrity's smile froze. It was subtle. Most people at home might not have noticed it, but the audience in the studio definitely did. For the first time since the interview started, the energy in the room shifted. "Oh," the celebrity said slowly. "That." A few people in the audience whispered to each other. Everyone knew what the host was referring to. The story had been circulating online for days. Some reports claimed the celebrity had argued with a producer backstage. Others suggested something even more dramatic had happened. But until this moment, nobody had asked the celebrity about it directly. The host continued calmly. "There are people saying that the conversation backstage became heated." The room fell quiet. The celebrity leaned back in their chair. "People say a lot of things," they replied. Their tone was still calm, but noticeably more serious than before. The host nodded. "That's true," they said. But several people who were there claimed they heard raised voices. A soft gasp rippled through the audience. Now the tension was undeniable. The celebrity paused before answering. For a few seconds, they simply looked at the host as if deciding how far this conversation was going to go. Then they spoke. "Look," they said, choosing their words carefully. "When you're in this industry long enough, people start creating stories." The host didn't interrupt. "And sometimes," the celebrity continued, "those stories take on a life of their own." A few audience members nodded. But the host wasn't finished. They glanced down at their notes again. According to one report, the host said slowly, "Someone backstage claimed the argument became so intense that security had to step in." The studio went completely silent. Even the celebrity seemed surprised by that statement. For the first time during the interview, their expression changed completely. They leaned forward. "Security," they repeated. The host held their gaze. "That's what the report said." A long pause followed. The kind of silence that only happens when everyone in the room realizes something serious is unfolding. The celebrity let out a quiet laugh, but it didn't sound amused. "That's not exactly how things happened." The audience leaned forward in their seats. The host tilted their head. "So what did happen?" they asked. The question hung in the air. Millions of viewers watching at home were now completely focused on the screen. The celebrity looked out at the audience for a moment before answering. Then they turned back toward the host. "Well," they said slowly, "since everyone seems so interested in this story, maybe it's time people heard the truth. A wave of whispers moved through the audience. The host raised an eyebrow. Oh, they said. The celebrity nodded. Yes, they replied. And that was the moment everyone realized something important. This wasn't going to stay a normal interview anymore. Because what the celebrity said next would not only shock the audience in the studio, it would send the entire internet into chaos. The celebrity's words hung in the air. Well, since everyone seems so interested in this story, maybe it's time people heard the truth. For a moment, nobody in the studio moved. The host leaned slightly forward, clearly intrigued by what the celebrity had just said. The audience members looked at one another, whispering quietly, as if they sensed that something far bigger was about to unfold. Live television is unpredictable, but moments like this, moments where the entire room feels the tension rising, are extremely rare. The host cleared their throat softly. Well, they said calmly, this is the first time you've spoken about it publicly. The celebrity nodded. That's right. A quiet murmur moved through the crowd again. For weeks, headlines had been filled with speculation. Online articles, social media debates, and countless rumors had tried to explain what had supposedly happened backstage during that previous interview. But now the person at the center of the story was finally ready to talk. The host glanced toward the camera for a brief second before turning back to the guest. So tell us, the host said. What actually happened? The celebrity leaned back in their chair and exhaled slowly. You know, they began. When you're in this business long enough, you learn that every moment can be twisted into something it wasn't. The host listened carefully. But this situation, the celebrity continued, started in a way that nobody expected. The audience leaned forward. It wasn't supposed to be dramatic, the celebrity said. It was just a conversation backstage. The host nodded. With who? They asked. A producer, the celebrity replied. Now the audience reacted again. The whispers grew slightly louder. The celebrity continued. Before the interview started, the producer came up to me and started explaining how the segment would go. Pretty standard stuff. So far that sounds normal, the host said. It was, the celebrity replied. Until they mentioned a question. The host raised an eyebrow. What kind of question? The celebrity paused. The kind that wasn't supposed to be asked. A ripple of surprise moved through the studio. The host glanced down at their notes again. You're referring to the question about your personal life? The celebrity looked directly at them. Yes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The tension was now impossible to ignore. The celebrity continued slowly. I had already made it clear to the production team that I didn't want that topic discussed. And yet, the host said carefully, and yet they told me the host planned to bring it up anyway. A few people in the audience gasped quietly. The host tilted their head. So you objected? Of course I did, the celebrity replied. Their tone was still calm, but there was an edge to it now. I explained that I was there to talk about my work, not rumors about my personal life. The host nodded slowly. That seems reasonable. The celebrity leaned forward slightly. But then the producer said something that surprised me. What was that? The host asked. They said the audience would expect it. The audience in the studio shifted uncomfortably. The celebrity continued. I remember thinking, since when does the audience get to decide what questions are asked? The host gave a small smile. Well, sometimes they do. A few people laughed softly, but the celebrity didn't laugh. That might be true, they said, but it doesn't mean every boundary should disappear. The host studied them carefully. So the conversation backstage became heated? The celebrity nodded slowly. Yes. How heated? The host asked. The celebrity hesitated for a moment. Then they answered. Let's just say voices were raised. The audience reacted instantly. For weeks, rumors had claimed exactly that. But hearing the celebrity confirm it on live television felt completely different. The host leaned back slightly. And security? They asked. The celebrity shook their head. That part of the story was exaggerated. The audience seemed relieved by that answer. No security stepped in, the celebrity continued. But several people did come over when they heard the argument. The host nodded. So the rumors weren't entirely wrong. Not entirely, the celebrity admitted. But they weren't entirely right either. The host paused before asking the next question. And how did the argument end? The celebrity looked down briefly before answering. I told them that if the question was asked, I would walk off the stage. The studio erupted in surprised whispers. The host's eyebrows shot upward. You threatened to leave the interview? Yes. The celebrity's voice was steady now. I wasn't trying to create drama. I just wanted to protect my boundaries. The host folded their hands. And what did the producer say? The celebrity laughed softly. They told me the host wouldn't dare ask the question after that. The audience chuckled nervously. But the celebrity's expression didn't change. Unfortunately, they continued, that's not what happened. The host slowly leaned forward. You mean? The celebrity nodded. Yes. The room went silent again. The moment the interview started, the host asked the question anyway. Gasps echoed through the audience. The tension in the studio suddenly became electric. The host looked stunned. And that's when things escalated? The celebrity looked directly at them. That's when everything changed. The host sat back in their chair. So what did you do? The celebrity paused. Then they answered quietly. I did exactly what I said I would do. The audience held their breath. The host stared at them. You walked off. The celebrity didn't answer immediately. Instead, they gave a slow, mysterious smile. Not exactly, they said. And suddenly, everyone in the studio realized that the most dramatic part of the story hadn't even happened yet. The studio was electric. Every eye was glued to the stage. The celebrity's calm facade had disappeared, replaced by a rare intensity that the audience had never seen before. The host, usually unshakable, now had a hint of tension in their expression. The cameras didn't miss a single twitch, glance, or pause. This was no ordinary interview anymore. The guest leaned forward, voice firm, almost daring the host to continue. I told you I wouldn't answer that question, they said, their words slicing through the ambient chatter of the studio. And yet here we are. The host, maintaining composure but with a sharper edge than before, responded, I'm just doing my job. The audience wants answers, and you're here to give them. A ripple ran through the audience. Whispers turned into audible gasps. Everyone could feel the tension rising like a storm ready to break. The celebrity's eyes flicked across the room. The audience? Or the producers? Whose expectations am I meeting here? Certainly not mine. Their voice was low, deliberate, heavy with the weight of frustration. The host leaned back, carefully choosing their next words. You came here to face the cameras. You came here knowing there might be uncomfortable questions. Isn't that part of being in the spotlight? The celebrity's jaw tightened. There's a difference between being in the spotlight and being ambushed under the guise of entertainment. The audience shifted uncomfortably. You could almost feel the collective intake of breath. The tension wasn't just on stage. It had jumped into the crowd, into the cameras, into every home watching live. I trusted this platform to be professional, the celebrity continued, voice rising. I trusted that we could talk about my work without turning it into a spectacle of rumor and gossip. And yet, their gaze locked on the host. Yet here you are, turning personal speculation into a live confrontation. The host's lips pressed into a thin line. Speculation? Or the truth people have been trying to uncover for weeks? The celebrity slammed a hand lightly on the armrest, commanding attention. Truth? Don't confuse a story built for clicks with actual truth. You're twisting everything into drama, and it's happening on national television. A murmur of shock moved through the audience. A few people covered their mouths, unable to believe what was unfolding live. The host, carefully measuring their words, said, We're not twisting. We're reporting. We're asking what millions of people are curious about. The celebrity's voice took on a sharper, almost icy edge. Curiosity doesn't justify disrespect. Millions of people can speculate, but I have boundaries. And when those boundaries are crossed, consequences follow. The room went silent again. Even the production crew behind the cameras held their breath. Everyone sensed that this was the climax, the turning point where a misstep could explode live on television. The host leaned forward, eyes narrowing. And what consequences are we talking about? The celebrity's gaze didn't waver. If questions cross lines, if they attack rather than inform, if they misrepresent my words, I walk away. That's the consequence. That's what happened before. And that's what could happen again. The audience gasped collectively. Some people whispered urgently to each other. The tension was so palpable it could be sliced with a knife. The host nodded slowly, acknowledging the weight of the statement. So the moment you felt ambushed, you decided to assert control? Exactly, the celebrity said. Their voice was steady but intense. I wasn't being dramatic. I was defending myself in front of millions of people. And anyone who's been in this industry long enough knows that self-respect is everything. For a brief moment, there was a pause. The celebrity's chest rose and fell slowly. The host's expression softened slightly, realizing the gravity of what had just been shared. Then, unexpectedly, the celebrity leaned forward. But let me make one thing perfectly clear. I didn't come here to start an argument. I came to clarify, to be honest with my fans, and to show that even in moments of pressure, dignity matters more than spectacle. The host exhaled. I can respect that. A few audience members clapped softly, almost as if they were applauding the honesty rather than the drama. But the tension hadn't fully released yet. It lingered in the air, heavy and charged. Then the celebrity added, their voice low but cutting. And if anyone tries to take what I've said today out of context, to twist it for clicks, know this. I'll speak again. And next time, it won't be subtle. The audience collectively leaned forward, the weight of the warning sinking in. Cameras zoomed in on the guest's eyes, revealing a mixture of intensity, vulnerability, and sheer control over the moment. The host finally leaned back in the chair, a thin smile appearing. Understood. The celebrity's eyes scanned the studio one last time. Good. Let's move on to the part that actually matters. My work, my story, and the truth behind the rumors. The tension began to ease slightly, but the audience remained captivated, knowing they had just witnessed a rare, unfiltered moment of confrontation on live television. Every word, every pause, every glance would be remembered. And just like that, the stage was set for the final part. The aftermath, the fallout, and the reactions that would ripple far beyond the studio walls. The studio lights dimmed slightly, as if reflecting the weight of what had just unfolded. The celebrity leaned back in their chair, breathing slowly, but the tension was still thick enough to feel in every corner of the room. The host remained seated across from them, silent for a moment, letting the gravity of the confrontation sink in. The audience didn't know where to look. Some faces were wide-eyed, some mouths slightly open, and whispers ran through the crowd like electricity. No one had ever witnessed a live television moment like this before. Even the seasoned crew behind the cameras seemed momentarily frozen, unsure whether to step in or let the drama play out. Finally, the host broke the silence. Well, that was unexpected. Their voice was calm, but the hint of awe couldn't be masked. Yes, the celebrity said, voice firm but controlled. Unexpected for some, but necessary for truth. The murmurs from the audience grew louder. Many leaned forward as if straining to catch every word. Some phones began recording, capturing this unforgettable moment for social media. Every eye in the studio, and on the live stream, was fixed on the stage. The celebrity continued, I came here to share my story. Not to create conflict. Not to be misrepresented. And certainly not to entertain drama at the expense of honesty. But if honesty feels uncomfortable, perhaps that's exactly the point. A few audience members clapped softly, some nodding in agreement. The studio atmosphere shifted subtly, the tension still palpable, but now edged with a sense of admiration for the guest's courage. Outside the studio, the reactions were immediate. Clips of the confrontation began circulating on social media within minutes. Twitter exploded with hashtags. Instagram Reels showed rapid cuts of the most shocking lines. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, and fan forums buzzed with debate. Every comment thread analyzed the celebrity's expressions, the host's reactions, and every subtle glance. Meanwhile, back on set, the host smiled faintly. Well, they said, this interview will certainly be remembered. The celebrity nodded. I hope it's remembered for the right reasons. Not for the drama, but for the truth I wanted people to hear. The audience erupted into a round of applause. Cameras panned across faces, capturing the mixture of surprise, admiration, and relief. Some even stood in ovation, realizing they had just witnessed a television moment that would be discussed for weeks. The host turned toward the camera. And to everyone watching at home, this is a reminder. Behind every headline, every rumor, there's always more to the story than what meets the eye. Today, we witnessed a rare glimpse of honesty and courage under pressure. The celebrity added a final note, looking directly into the camera. I want to thank my fans for supporting me through all of this. And to anyone watching, remember, you don't have to accept every story at face value. Question it, seek the truth, and always stand up for yourself. The host nodded. Powerful words. Thank you for being so candid. The audience's applause continued as the camera slowly pulled back, showing the full set. The stage lights softened, but the energy remained charged. Everyone knew they had witnessed something historic. And then, as the video began to fade to the outro, the celebrity issued a final call to action. Tell us what you think about today's events in the comments below. Share your opinions, your reactions, and let us know how you would have handled this situation. And if you want more explosive, dramatic, and unforgettable celebrity stories, don't forget to subscribe to The Truth Narrator. Hit that like button and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. The host smiled warmly. And that's exactly why we do what we do, bringing you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. As the outro music played, the camera captured the audience one last time. Still buzzing, still talking, still processing what had just unfolded. Clips of their reactions, the subtle gasps, the leaning forward, the moments of shock, they would all end up in social media highlights, keeping the conversation alive far beyond the original broadcast. In the world of live television, some moments fade as soon as the credits roll. But today's confrontation would live on. It would be dissected, discussed, and remembered. And thanks to the honesty, the tension, and the raw emotion captured on that stage, The Truth Narrator had delivered a story that would echo across screens for weeks to come. Because sometimes the most dramatic moments aren't scripted, they're lived.